are back on our quest to watch all of these bad sitcoms.
Wow!
And today, our show is pretty bad. Out of this world. The episode in question is New Kid on the Block.
So I want like a disclaimer right from the top.
Okay.
So this was one of my favorite shows growing up. So it was instantly what I thought of. And then I started looking up episodes and I was like, there is literally not one good episode. And I ended up finding out that it's known as like the worst sitcom ever made.
Wow.
Like there's an essay on it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I picked the episode with the most notable guest, which was Mr. T.
You told me that Mr. T showed up in this episode, and it was like 20 minutes into it, and I was like, when is he going to show up?
Yeah.
And then he shows up in the most random fashion.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed the Mr. T cameo, though.
You were crazy.
Oh my God,
It was
Jesus.
the only thing that made it.
It was like a tiny bit of life after like being in a coma for so long. But before we really get into this basically plotless episode,
Yeah.
would you like to swing on a star? This song fucking rules, dude.
It's the best part of the whole show.
That must be why we liked it as a kid. So there's not a lot of historical background to be found on this show.
No.
People have said they just try to wipe it off. But this was
They want it out of this
another,
world.
like our last episode about Small Wonder, this was a syndicated show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it started out very briefly as a part of the NBC lineup called Primetime Begins, when they decided that they were going to start primetime at 7:30,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going to get the scoop on everybody else who were still running like the news and all kinds of like not that attractive programming. But apparently the shows that they brought to Primetime Begins were some of the worst ever made, including this and a Suzanne Summers show called She's the Sheriff.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Wow,
Wow, you
you
remember
do?
that?
I was such a product of the 80s that I watched every show that was on.
That's amazing.
It's really weird thinking about watching TV as a kid because I felt like I didn't even like a lot of these shows, but I felt like I had to watch them. It was like my job.
It really did, yeah.
It was like Tuesday nights. I remember being shitty primetime, but I was still like, well, I still got to be there at 8 p.m. for the start.
Yeah, that's true. I think I recall enjoying almost every show I watched.
I liked Out of This World when I was younger.
I loved
Yeah,
it when I was
right?
younger. And
Yeah.
it was another Saturday show. It had like a certain kind of magic to it
Yeah.
when you'd come across it and you're like, oh yeah.
Well, it also, it was a magical show. Which, are we supposed to really think that aliens have witch powers? Like, she could just do whatever she wanted?
I mean,
Freeze time?
The show reminds me a lot of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch, if you watched that.
It's been compared to in this horrible essay about it.
Oh, really?
Where it's called The Worst Show Ever. It is likened to Sabrina.
Yeah, you could definitely see that.
just to give a brief overview of the show, the lead character named Evie, played by a beautiful girl.
Maureen Flanagan. I bet you liked her at least.
Oh, Jesus,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
And her dad, very lazily, played by Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds refused to have his name on that show, I think. Because in the credits, it's like Troy as himself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Because so he plays the dad who is just a crystal, talking crystal. I don't know if the dad was on another side of the galaxy fighting a different.
He was supposed to be on Terrace, which is his planet.
He's like, I'm in a different sitcom. I got time. Man, he has one line in this episode, and could he be more like
Sexist.
bored? Get me out of here. And just like, yeah, I remember I had a similar experience once. Okay, I gotta go. Bye.
He also was like super. It was just like a weird sexist kind of move. It was like, a lot of women like to be courted by men. It's like it was like that kind of thing. A lot of women find it flattering when men fight over. Jeez.
He's like a little mansplaining from across the galaxy. Now I gotta go. So, like so many 80s shows, we open in the diner.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we kind of did hang out in a diner in our youth.
Yeah, but this was like a real cheap ripoff of the Max from Saved by the Bell.
Yes, even
It's called the Goody Goody.
even excuse me, sorry. Call an ambulance.
Okay.
Even hold on. Rusty, take over for a second. I'm trying to or say a sentence which is so easy, but I can't get it out.
In the opening scene, we're greeted by this waiter who's so over the top camp that he's unbearable to watch. He's so cringy.
Played by a guy named Peter Potofsky or something like that.
Yeah.
The weird thing, he was very familiar to me, and I looked him up, but I couldn't find anything else.
How can you make out any of these actors with the quality of this YouTube video?
Oh,
This is really
so bad.
How much Vaseline was on your screen watching this?
You know what's weird? When I was reading about the diner character, the waiter guy, he's supposed to be an alien from Antares who like shows up, and that's his first episode ever. This is season 4, episode 1. We're in the last season of this whole show, and that's his opening. Like that's him. That's his first scene, and then he's in the whole season. And he's apparently like a retired alien who's living on Earth.
okay. I mean, that does make his character make more sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I love the show.
He does.
You know, that actor, according to IMDb, known for having an almost rubbery face. Almost rubbery. If only it had been full rubber. He could have been the next Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I mean, so like the kind of antics we're talking about here is the two girls order shakes. They say, "Can we have a couple of shakes?" And he begins to violently shake.
Oh, it's so cringy.
It's horrible.
Disgusting.
And then her friend, what's her friend's name again?
Lindsay.
Her friend Lindsay says,
Now I know where they came up with the term soda jerk.
like someone born in the 20s?
Got
Yeah.
some real zingers.
I haven't heard you never hear that.
Yeah. No kid, no teenager talks that way.
Yeah.
There's a great reference made in this scene, though, coming up. First, they see a hot guy.
Who is that? Oh, he's new in town.
And they mention a student film called Birthmarks of a Nation.
Mm.
So this is referencing Birth of a Nation.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
And I like, most sitcoms have pretty simple plots, but this is like as plotless as they get.
Serious.
She sees this guy come in and immediately attracted to him, goes and talks to him, but she currently has a boyfriend.
Well, they're kind of split up though. They're open relationship.
But she was kind of cool about that. I kind of,
Yeah.
she was like, had a cool take on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if
Very
you're listening,
modern
Maureen Flanagan.
But the character Jeffrey Douglas, how pretentious was this guy?
I thought they were good. I thought the episode was going the way that he was going to be like a racist or something.
Well,
that's seriously what I thought they were going to.
Every 80s sitcom had to have like a Republican character.
Right.
And he does say California is loaded with weirdos, wackos, and flake balls,
Mhm.
Flake balls.
of
Flake
which
balls.
I'm all three. And so I thought they were going to go that direction, but then they kind of just go nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I hated though when he's saying how California is loaded with weirdos, wackos, and flake balls, and then the waiter comes over and starts shaking again.
He also was a terrible actor. Let's not forget.
Oh,
Just him?
But he goes on to be like have a whole episode arc things, whatever, on this season too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, really? I thought he was a one and done.
I thought so too.
Now,
No.
here's my question for you. He says he's from Massachusetts.
So, you're from Boston.
That's right. The home of Paul Revere's Ride, the Boston Tea Party, the Battle of Bunker Hill.
Anybody that's too into history, racist.
I think the worst thing is when Evie like kind of says she wants to take him out on a date or a tour of California, and he's just like, "Well, I just have to be home in time for the evening news." It's like, who would ever say that?
Exactly. Especially the evening news that was so shitty too. It was
Yeah.
like, wow, you're going to watch like the NBC evening news. Wait,
How
but I have to jump back one quick second.
Yeah.
When he says what historical events ever happened in California, and he lists all the places in Mass, then he says that her friend answers with something I could not tell what she was saying.
What history-making events have ever happened in California?
The S Festival?
the Us Festival, which was a pretty big music event.
Oh, the Us Festival.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I thought you said S. I was like,
I
ah.
replayed that so many times until it sounded like Chinese to me, where I was just like, now I'm going backwards.
So,
You needed our speech therapist from school to help you out with that one.
Oh boy.
yeah,
Okay.
Coachella, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I love is she delivered the lines. It's the 90s in this episode.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
love doing
And I was like, wow, it was 1990, I think.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
like, wow,
Yeah.
it became-
Slow down.
yeah, hold on. Get a feel for it.
Yeah, at least Karate Kid was like mid 80s. Hey, it's the 80s. Who would ever ask though when Jeff says, "Who's your favorite TV anchor?"
Downtown Julie Brown.
California.
So then Chris shows up randomly, right?
Yeah, and then she pauses, like she stops everything.
Yeah, very Zach Morris kind of technique.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't seen this show, one of her main powers, this is the power she uses the most, is she puts her two fingers together, boop, and stops time. And she gets to do whatever she wants. She uses, like, in the credits, she keeps paint from spilling, things like that, but it's usually to get out of an awkward situation.
So then we're introduced to her mother, her uncle, and I don't know who this other guy was, the sheriff guy. I don't remember him.
I had to say, when they cut to this scene, it's just like a motley assortment of like, just actors that are just like, were fired from other sitcoms 30 years ago, are just standing around. You're like, what the fuck are these people?
How hammy was that scene with the invention?
That was horrible. It was the show was already bad, and you're like, wow, now what the fuck?
But I thought it was interesting that they used the word crap.
Yeah.
So yeah, do we even want to explain this invention? I guess
I think you
should.
could do it very quickly.
I have no memory.
Basically, this guy Uncle Bino, who's pretty like eccentric, I guess, and I guess he's an inventor because they're like, oh, not another invention,
right?
But he has this device that he comes up with that for when your kids are arguing in the back seat on a trip, instead of turning around while you're driving to yell at them, he holds up a Santa head on a stick and starts doing a Santa impression, being like,
kids, if you're expecting any gifts from me this year, you'd best be cutting the crap. Well,
that is a shitty invention.
And it was really shot poorly because it was like facing the camera, which was also facing his profile, which was not facing
I know what you mean, yeah.
Oh, if we're going to talk about the camera technique, I've got a great moment coming up because while these losers are hanging around, Chris shows up randomly again. So that's just like another, like he just showed up randomly 30 seconds of screen time ago.
Yeah.
And then Evie shows up. She's finishing her tour of California with the guy from Boston. Couldn't believe that happened off camera. I was like, oh, this episode's going to be about her taking him around. Like, instead, it just happens in between scenes. But when she opens up the door and sees that Chris is there is like a crazy zoom that you never see in sitcoms. Suddenly
I love it.
Edgar Wright direct this?
I loved it though. I have rewound that a few times because it's so bizarre.
It is so fucking
and
weird.
It was like he was like smile at her.
So then she freezes time again.
Right.
And in exactly the same moment that happened in the previous scene, basically.
Yeah. No imagination.
And goes outside to talk to her mom. And, you know, I kind of do like the way she's like talking about, like, you know, she wants to be free, etc.
Yeah.
And the mom is like, well, then you got to tell Chris that. And she's like, oh, I will tell him tomorrow. And then that's the commercial break.
Right.
That's the cliffhanger. She's going to tell him later.
Yeah. The one quick thing about Chris, the boyfriend, he went away to school, but it's only 3 weeks.
Right.
Like they're making it seem like he was gone longer, where they have this open relationship and that he only sent her like one letter. But 3 weeks he drops out and comes back home to go to community college.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. How do you 3 weeks is so quick to like drop out? Like,
I know.
Something really extreme happened there.
They didn't have a surf. They didn't have a surf team.
That's what he explains. Yeah.
Oh wait, that's really what he says.
Yeah.
They didn't have
That's
a
the
surf.
reason. Yeah.
But so yeah, he's back.
He's
so now
back.
this is her. This is the point of this episode. Oh, what is she gonna do?
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
juggling two guys.
Well, they meet up at the diner and everybody's there. Lindsay, Chris, and who's this other guy, Jeff.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's some confusion because they both sit with her and they kind of sandwich her in the booth.
But before this, we had a great joke where Lindsay is telling her, like, I don't tell anyone how to live their lives. And then a guy walks by and she like scolds the guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's the 90s line. Yes. She's like, I don't tell
Yikes.
anybody how to live their life. And then some guy walks by with kind of longish hair and she goes, cut your hair, man. It's the 90s.
And her friend is like, oh, don't worry. Like, what are the odds these two guys will ever meet? And they come in with their arms around each other. And then the friend says, I suppose you don't want my picks for the Kentucky Derby. It says teenage girl in 1990. The Kentucky Derby?
Again, she's very old.
Yeah.
Old soul. Birth of a Nation, Soda Jerk, Kentucky Derby. Those are her refs.
Yeah, exactly.
If that girl's offended by long hair, the following year when grunge broke, she's going to be devastated.
Oh, yeah. I know. I was like, that guy seemed the coolest extra they could have found ever. He looked like a Keanu Reeves, a young Keanu Reeves.
I could not make anybody out. I could not tell who was good looking or not.
got a better version than you
Really?
guys.
No,
Yeah.
ours looked like Sega CD.
Oh wow. Anyway,
Trying
That's a good comparison, Sega CD.
So we got a love triangle going on here,
Mhm.
and they decide to flip a coin to
Mm.
see who will win Evie's heart.
Well, they're both very possessive. They're both very entitled to her,
Yeah.
Evie, which they kind of touch on. It's pretty progressive for a second.
yeah, I thought that too.
I mean, it's even more progressive. She's an alien.
half alien.
So now we have a montage, which was so fucking
Oh.
painful,
Oh god.
where the guys are
Yeah.
competing for her love, but it's so half-assed.
What was
Mhm.
really weird about it was, that it was like a montage that didn't go anywhere. I'm like, are they just standing outside the door changing into different outfits?
Yeah.
So it's just them coming to her door and her answering the door,
Well,
and then
Her outfit never changed, so it had to be all on the same day.
Like they like are fishermen. They're what are the other things they do? It's just so
their chef
lame.
with
Chefs.
baked her some
Oh,
pies.
They're jugglers at one point, and she slams the door on them. But after she slams the door, you see a ball drop from like above. So the one of them must have thrown it over the set and just landed.
Oh, but then they come in fencing, which after all this boring stuff, that was fucking gripping.
Well, so now they're at the diner.
Oh, yes.
So
Diner.
that's
But she's so unimpressed by that. So they keep pursuing her or competing against one another, and she seems so uninterested.
Yeah, she's just like, this needs to stop.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure must feel oppressive, but like, where did you get these fencing outfits? And you guys learned how to fence?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like they bonded on their trip to the store buying that shit.
Yeah.
And the guy says, I was just about to lunge. Say, want a Kleenex? I thought that was kind of a good joke.
No, I don't get it.
I don't really either. I think it's just the lunge sounds gross, like booger or something. Like, I'm gonna lunge.
Like, yeah, I got it.
And Lindsay says, like, they should stop this, and they decide that they're going to settle this battle over a boxing match.
Well, that's Lindsay's idea, right? She wanted them to stop like the stupid stuff.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and do it like a more barbaric way.
Always
Sexist.
boxing.
Sexist.
on
Oh yeah,
sitcoms.
big 80s thing, boxing.
Settle your debate in the ring.
Yeah.
Before they go to the boxing ring, though, there's another moment with the waiter where he talks about being an ex-boxer.
That was great.
No.
The way you can see, I'm not just agreeing with Poe. Just you can see my notes. Kind of Kramer-esque, kind of nice moment.
No.
No, when he goes like over that counter, that's actually like kind of good physical comedy.
Yeah.
Like, man, that guy took a hit for this show.
Yeah, I know. His joke was, "Hey, I used to be a boxer, and it was totally fine." And then he instantly
He hears a bell, it
Yeah. Oh,
triggers
yeah.
the memory. He starts like growling, and then he jumps to the counter, but his body is really stiff as he does it. So it's pretty funny.
It's like such a ripoff of the Three Stooges. It's such a ripoff of Curly. So I'm giving him an F for originality on there.
Well, I'm pretty sure these writers also worked on the Three Stooges. In like the 30s.
We're in the wrong game.
Who is Kyle again?
Kyle?
Yeah.
Oh, Kyle's
the sheriff guy.
Yeah. He used to be the mayor.
Oh,
so he
okay.
used to be so in the show, he used to be an actor and was like a sort of like washed up actor guy who
This shouldn't be too hard for me to play.
Yeah, who gets elected mayor of town, but then eventually Evie's mom becomes mayor, and then she like upgrades Kyle's position to sheriff.
Wow.
Yeah.
All this interest, like the
There you go, guys.
Wow.
He's
a little look behind the curtain of
Yeah.
politics.
But for some reason, he's at this boxing gym.
Yeah.
Oh, he's working out. He's doing what was his nursery rhyme?
Oh, right. He was trying to jump rope.
Buttercup.
Kyle! Kyle!
Buttercup, what? This better be important, Evie. I was just getting up to threesies.
But he's wearing neon green, like great outfit with like a big chain.
Mhm.
Ooh, foreshadow.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, basically,
Yeah, go.
so Evie asks him to stop the madness and wants him to break up the two guys about to fight.
Don't ruin this joke, Rusty. Deliver it.
I'll let you deliver it. I'll let you deliver it because it was actually a good moment.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna stop them. and he gets in the ring. And anyone who's seen an 80s sitcom knows exactly what's going to happen. He becomes the ref, and he's like, when ring this bell, start hitting each other.
You didn't really sell that joke either. So, well, the best moment is coming up because Evie has to take the reins and she has to end this. So she looks at a poster on the wall with Mr. T in it.
There's got to be somebody that can stop this.
And then she looks up at the poster, and she becomes Mr. T.
Mm-hmm.
These gold chains weigh a ton. Hate to be behind him at the airport. Gotta straighten his voice.
Hey, fool. Good. Sounds all right. Now I gotta stop that fight.
I think this moment was actually kind of funny.
Go on.
Yeah, it was great because Mr. T rules.
Yeah, Mr. T rules, and he stops him from fighting. He's just like, "What are you guys even fighting about?" And they say,
A girl.
A girl? You guys are willing to throw away a potentially good friendship over some girl? She must be real pretty.
She's okay. Not bad.
About a 7? Yeah.
A 7?
I couldn't believe this moment.
It was
Yeah.
really funny. I thought it was really funny.
actually
They were
was
like,
funny, yeah.
She's all right.
"They all are 7," and then he's just like, "What?"
I don't know. I thought she was prettier than a
Well, I
7.
also
yeah.
like that. I like she definitely is, but also I like that Mr. T was like, even though both of you are pretty cute, like Mr. T delivered that line.
Oh,
Yeah, Mr. T was great. Yeah.
Have you guys thought that maybe this girl might not want to get seriously involved with anyone right now? Even though I'm extremely fond of you, and I think you're both pretty cute.
You do?
I mean, she does.
That's Mr. T playing Evie playing Mr. T. I mean, wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
pretty weird when her voice comes out of his body. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Also cool. Liked that.
And then he uses his catchphrase of "Pity the fool that wins,"
Yep.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
because they'll have to fight him, and they both fall to the floor, and they declare that they're the loser.
Right. Because nobody wants to fight him. But wasn't it great to kind of see him use "I pity the fool" with like it's so like just
Oh, I love it.
But I pity the fool that wins, because you're gonna have to fight me.
yeah, it was so casual. It was not like bastardized.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just like, wow, oh my God, he's literally using the catchphrase. Whoa.
You know, the thing is, I looked him up and I had some good facts about him, but I forgot them.
Oh no.
So, do you have any?
I have a good fact about Mr. T.
I like what I'm hearing.
No, you're not going to like this. My distant cousin was a successful lawyer, lived in L.A., and was neighbors with Mr. T. And apparently he didn't like to pick up garbage. He would just throw garbage on his lawn.
Oh,
A
my
litter
God.
bug.
A litter
He was a litter bug.
Oh no,
Wow.
lowest of the low.
Wow.
Maybe
Yeah,
it was
You heard it here first. This was in the 90s, though. Maybe he cleaned up his act.
literally. Maybe it was hard for him to bend down with all those chains on, you know?
That's true.
Never
Well,
gonna
do you
get back
know-
up.
Do you know the origin of the chains?
It has,
He was a bouncer at a club, and people would frequently leave jewelry behind. I'm not sure why. And so he would wear them as kind of like a lost and found. Like people were supposed to come get the
That
jewelry.
is amazing.
So could do like a reality show where people come to get the jewelry back after all these
Oh,
years.
God.
Where they've been.
Can either of you do a Mr. T impression?
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Although I'm confident I could do a good one, but I'm not going to.
Yeah,
I think I
like-
could do a good one, but I'm not going to do it either.
Oh, well, this is good
Oh.
content.
Well, I'm not just going to start doing Mr. T impressions.
Well, before we say goodbye, I would just like to say that there's one final scene. I think
Yeah.
we call it the tag in the biz.
Oh yeah.
The show ends so abruptly.
but-
Yeah.
It's like,
I wrote in my notes, it was kind of a fun moment because Mr. T
Right.
shows up to talk to the mom with Evie's voice.
And the mom is not at all like surprised by this, or you know, she's just like, get up there and go do your homework.
Evie Ethel Garland, how many times have I told you not to wear so much jewelry? Go upstairs and finish your homework.
Oh, Ma, do I have to?
Go
Oh,
now.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
Mr. T kind of like,
Yeah, does a cute little.
he does a
girl
cute,
walk.
yeah, exactly. He does like
Little
a
prance.
a downtrodden look as he like kind of like, I can't think of the word, but walks away despondently.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is that there was 96 episodes of this,
I know.
and it's just like so half-hearted.
Yeah. And
No-
well, I guess we're really watching the last season. This is the first episode of the last season. So they're like, we're so tired
Oh,
of
yeah.
this. We're over it.
You know what's interesting, though? Besides Mr. T, there was a lot of cameos throughout the series.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Some of you would like it. Some of you would be impressed by.
Oh, start listing them.
Scott Baio, yeah.
who also directed a bunch of the episodes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That
How much directing did this take?
Oof.
is the Republican character based on him by any chance?
Wait, but who are the other cameos? Because I don't care about Scott Baio.
Oh, okay, Tom Nolan.
Tom Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to remind me who that is.
Isn't Tom Nolan from Isn't he the monster Frankenstein and the Monster Squad?
Tom Noonan.
Oh no! All right, then I don't know who Tom Nolan is. Ruth Buzzy.
No idea who that is.
Betsy Palmer. You know who Betsy Palmer is?
Nope.
Seriously? Friday the 13th? Jason's mom?
What I like about podcasts is ending really strong.
Well, I'm not going to keep listening if you don't know any of these people.
I do know Jason's mom.
Wow. Well, we could just talk about how much we hated or liked it, or, you know, I mean, we all said that this was a show we loved when we were kids,
Yeah.
right?
And no reason to watch it in the modern day.
Yeah, really disappointing.
Well, I'm going to say something shocking.
Go on.
Jen had me watch Spider-Man Homecoming yesterday,
Yeah.
and I liked this Out of This World episode better than that movie. So
Wow.
that's where we stand.
That's ridiculous. Because I thought that was actually an entertaining movie.
So not good.
Well, I will say this, a point of shame for me. I really liked Steve when I was a young girl. I was like, he's so hot. And gotta say, still find Steve hot.
Really?
Like
Isn't he on a soap opera?
Yes, he was for so long.
Yeah.
He's on General Hospital.
My wife immediately recognized him even through the graininess.
Yeah, I actually watched General Hospital for a while because of that fact.
Wait, isn't that the show that Parry's on?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
We could get to Steve.
Oh, boy.
There's only one thing to do. Play that song
Oh, yeah.
on our way up.
Swing on a star, whoa, whoa, whoa. Every moonbeam's home in a jar, whoa, whoa, whoa. And be better off than you are, whoa, whoa, whoa. Or would you rather go to Earth? And Earth is a creature who is plain as can be. Yeah. He's not as unique as you or me. His body comes in lots of different shapes. They say his relatives were chimps and apes, but if you take my advice for what it's worth, you could be happy there on Earth. Or would you like to swing on a star? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Carry moonbeams home in a jar. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And be better off than you are. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You could be swinging on a star. Yeah, yeah. You could be swinging on a star.
Well, Jeff wins. Ain't gonna be no rematch.